Welcome, I'm the DeadwoodJedi. This is going to be another Raid Shadow Legends video. We are here getting ready for the next event in the Faction Games 2023. We're talking Hydra. Now, there are 3 competitors in this. Your eyes do not mistake you, and no, I am not one of them. We do have Saphyra from the HH Gaming Network here with us. We have VictorTES from his channel, VictorTES. That's also here with us. But we're missing one competitor, Mr. MTGJedi. He's probably the busiest out of all of us, quite frankly, because he has a newborn baby. He also has work, like an actual day job and stuff. The guy's a machine. So hopefully he'll be able to show up a little bit later, but sometimes life gets in the way, so we might not be able to get to talk to him about this in, specifically with him. But hopefully we can, I'm sure our competitors will likely throw some shit at him while he's not here to defend himself. So that could be fun in and of its own right. But guys, thank you so much for being here. We're obviously talking Hydra for the Faction Games. This is one of the more anticipated events, I would say, because it's hard to build a Hydra team, and it's really hard to build a Hydra team without legendaries, and even harder when you only have one faction to choose from. I'm very, very curious to see, do we do 10 million damage? Do we do 2 million damage? Or like how it's going to turn out overall. So I'm very, very interested to see this. For the viewers out there, we are doing hard difficulty of Hydra. There's also another little twist because Saphyra doesn't have access to the test server. So he's actually going to be doing a slightly different rotation. My understanding, we were talking a little bit earlier, is the rotation isn't that different. So I'm sure that's something we can get into. Maybe Saphyra can clear that up for us, but it's going to be a little bit different, but I don't think it's really going to impact things too drastically. At least that's my hope. But yeah, maybe Saphyra, you can start us off, just kind of tell us what those differences are as far as our rotations are. Because I believe, Victor, you were saying test server run rotation 3 right now. Is that right?
3, yes.
And then
live is rotation 6.
Rotation 6.
So,
okay.
So the difference is basically I'm going to be facing Torment and Mischief from the start, whereas the test server is going to have Suffering and Blight from the start. So, a lot of people are instantly going to go, okay, if Torment was from the start, MTGJedi would have had a pretty good start, right? Because Torment with Shamael is really good. So I'm not gaining an advantage by having Torment at the front because I don't have anyone that can boost my leader per se. Right. If anything, it forces me down more of a specific route, right? I can't get away with not picking specific champions because I have to actually have a Torment solution. Whereas to some extent, if you don't start with Torment on lower difficulties, you're not always guaranteed to get the same head back, or more to the case, you're more guaranteed to get the same head back, I should say. Right. Whereas obviously on Nightmare, it's like a 10% chance that it's the same head. It's very low. I think on hard, I think it's like, I want to say 50%, but it could be 75% that you get the same head back. So it means I'm more likely to have Torment in my team than not, whereas someone like Jedi might not get Torment, which obviously he would probably hope for with his Shamael. And so me and Victor are probably like, please don't give me Torment. We don't really want to have to deal with Torment. Yeah, like, no, stay away. MTGJedi would be like, please give me Torment. Yeah, right. Completely variable.
Well, I know.
But those are the only 2 differences.
Okay, so it's not a huge change to things. I know you're running the Night Revenant faction. Church of Whisper is what you're praying to. I assume we're going to be continuing that kind of religious philosophy going forward as far as your team here. So
there may be a sacred order in the team, but there's only one church that we really care about, right?
So
it's the way it's going to go.
Talk to us a little bit about what Night Revenant brings for Hydra and where it's weak for Hydra.
So it's actually like you wouldn't think Night Revenants are that good for it to some extent because, it doesn't have the Duchess, it doesn't have the Krisks, these big champions doesn't have a Crizia, all these champions that we actually think of legendary champions. You don't immediately think Night Revenants is going to be really good. But actually, when you look at the epic pool, I'm actually quite confident a little bit in the sense that I've got arguably a brilliant starter kit in Rectordrath, Doom Priest. I have 2 options for dealing with a Torment head when most people barely have 1, so it's kind of cheating in that sense. Although I'm a bit on the fence as to whether I pick both of them or one of them or which one I pick is a little bit of that's going to have to be some testing. Because unlike the test server, I haven't been able to start practicing yet because I've had to wait for the new rotation, so I've had to wait for everything so it's going to be a proper test. But so I kind of have like the Thylesia gives me a really good basis, decreased defense. I get Hex in my team, so I don't have to use a curse set if I don't want to. There's also like a little cheeky bit of debuff spreading on the A1, which we do like, which would be great to pair with a couple of other champions. So I get a good starter champion there. I got a Torment solution. I probably have the best damage options, really. I mean, Sacred Order's probably got some good ones, but
obviously
I'm pretty confident Whisper's like a really big cheat code, especially if I can kill a head, right? If I can take a head and I can kill a head and I can have some uptime on the head, then things could get nasty. The downside is turn meter control. There isn't decreased speed, really. I think the best option is like a rare, pretty much, and it's not even a big. I think Executioner is the best one. It's literally the only decreased speed in the faction. So I'm a bit like, can't really slow them down, which obviously everyone knows in Hydra the biggest thing you want to do is slow the heads down, because if you're not slowing them down, I can't slow the consumption timer. So therefore the enrage mechanic is going to be more of a problem for me specifically. But yeah, I'm fairly confident that I've got a good, like, it just depends if I can hit critical mass, right? It's kind of like the Thunder teams. If you can kill all the heads and you can start popping off with the A2, then you do like billions of damage. If you can't quite kill the heads, then it's not going to do much more than your bog standard teams. So
right. Well, I mean, that definitely brings in some questions as far as what's the best way to build this and like make this together. But obviously, like you said, you have a great starter kit, right? You got Thylesia for the AoE decreased defense, some Hex, even a little bit, debuff extension, even a little bit of spread. Doom Priest and Rector Drath are champions a lot of people actually use in their main teams. Yeah. So we know how effective they can be. And then obviously Whisper with some damage. And then on top of that, you have some very solid support options too, right? Like, Miscreated Monsters, always a good ally protection choice. Plus a little bit of shield at the very least. Yeah, but I
probably won't use them. I don't think I have the capacity to have that kind of, like, you got to think I need a decreased attack option.
Right.
And again, the only good option really is probably Golden Reaper, and I also need some turn meter boosting. You need that kind of Nekmothar style champion if you really want to maximize sort of like champions that deal direct damage because they need turns. So it'd be nice, but I don't think I'm going to have the space in the team to have some of these champions.
That is the trick, is with only using epics, they only bring so many skills to the table, and that's really the biggest difference between the rarity of these champions, legendaries and epics, is the amount of skills that they can bring in with their kit. So that's obviously going to be a big question mark. I'm really interested to see how you do, because obviously you have some options, like we said, with some healing and some protection and some buff cleanse. But as far as, larger, like, protection stuff, like increased defense, ally protection, maybe a little bit more limited than some of the other classes. Also, notably, you want to bring in a weaken debuff, especially AoE if you can, just to activate Whisper's abilities. So that's going to be a little tricky as well. So I'm very interested.
I don't think I can, yeah. Although what I will say is everyone in chat when they're watching the stream can give a big thank you to Plarium, because the change they made to Rector Drath is probably going to save us about an hour. Because it's not going to spend like forever doing a little waddle to give everyone a heal, right? The animation change on Rector Drath is probably going to save us like half an hour in the stream. So that's a good thing. Meanwhile, everyone's probably going to be watching MTGJedi's Shamael, doing his little crossbow maneuver every time a poison comes out. So we're going to have to endure the Shamael, but at least you don't have to endure the Rector Wrath. That's my giveaway. That at least gives me like 10 million damage, right? As a bonus, at least?
No, I don't think so. Victor, so your team, you've got the Demon Spawn. Are you feeling the same kind of constrictions that Saphyra is, as far as, finding, champions that can fill all the different roles for you? Because my understanding is Demon Spawn has slightly different issues than he's going to find in Night Revenant.
I think the problem here is I need some key points. Like for example, we have Viewer for a support to revive, but I don't think I have that in the server. Then I have to search in it. But I think we can get it because he's a spirit. Another problem here, I think, is the control of the decreased speed. also the increased speed. We have raids there, but you only have 6 spots, and you also have to deal a lot of damage. This is not about damage dealers. Okay, we have Magnar, we have something we can reach, maybe, I don't know, maybe some millions there, but I think it's all about the debuffs. This is a good faction to debuff. Also the spread effect, also do you have a lot of tools to make that proper, but for example with the Torment it's a little bit risky, I think, because we play that in auto. You have 5 minutes, but you have to go so fast to make that run automatic, and then I think
just for people watching, in case you aren't aware, every time we've been doing this so far, we've been going through the 4 dungeons. We just finished Spiders today, so we've done all 4 dungeons in our competition, and every competitor gets 3 heats for dungeons. Well, obviously, we're not going to do 3 full runs of Hydra. That's just silly. No. So what we do have established is they have a opening period in which they can manual the very beginning of the run, and if they don't like that beginning, reset and try again. And basically, that's the first 5 minutes or the first 10 turns as recorded in Hydra turns. So whichever one of those ends first is the cutoff point. So they do have a little bit of time to set up their team to make sure that things are working in the way they want, and hopefully get the RNG the way they like before they actually have to keep the run and click auto. But once they click auto, locked in.
Whoa. Well, we have to go auto.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I didn't agree to that. Why would that be a rule? That's silly.
Well, because
I don't auto Hydra. I've never autoed Hydra.
It's the rule.
I'm pretty sure I can get you a developer quote that says Hydra is not designed to be run auto. I'm rioting right now.
I don't disagree, but it's in the rules. It's been there from the get-go.
When did the rule it? No. I thought we just had like a reroll. I didn't know that there was a full auto. Hang on now. I can't. You can't do it full auto. Like, what if I need to like save my ability because I want to use it on like the decapitated head, and I don't want to. That's that.
Go far. Maybe
we're going to discuss this after the collab. I think we need to change that rule.
We have a riot in the chat right now, guys.
I control the website. I can change the rules very quickly. It's fine.
Wow.
Actually,
he's feeding into it.
VictorTES, you're happy to go like non-full auto, aren't you? Right? You'd be happy to go manual.
I can go with everything. It's okay.
There you go. 2 out of 3. Diplomacy, democracy wins. It's now manual.
Unfortunately, it is an auto run. That is the rule established.
Who's come up with the rules? If I get all 3 competitors to agree, and all other competitors that Hydra can be manual, can we go manual?
No.
That's a dictatorship, not a democracy.
The biggest reason why I've done it, I wanted to do it this way, is because these runs can last extremely long times, and I didn't want to.
Oh, they're not going to last extremely long. I don't know what.
That's what
There is no 15-minute runs happening here this time.
Yeah, well,
we'll be lucky to get to like 20 minutes.
Not having legendaries definitely has a major impact on this. The previous faction games, same rules, full auto, and it provided some really nice points of surprise in the final run of things. But obviously, legendaries were allowed to be involved, so the runs could go a little bit longer than were expected. But they went, a fair amount of time. But yeah, that's kind of the rules that we have established. You can still, you can target and click and all that stuff, but it is on auto.
Yeah, we're going to tweak those rules, right?
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to have some conversations after this collaboration. But I do want to get back to Victor kind of talking a little bit about the demon spawn faction specifically. You were talking about how it's about the debuffs, getting those debuffs out, controlling the enemies. Obviously you have some advantages, right? You have Umbral Enchantress, who is amazing as far as block buffs, one of the more important debuffs to get out there. Who are you looking at for some of the other debuffs, like decrease speed, like Saphyra mentioned, is such a valuable debuff to have. Provoke, obviously, for the decay head. What are some of the other champions that you're looking at as far as getting some of those debuffs out?
We have also Umbral to make the taunt, the provoke, but the problem is the lockdown. But we have also champions like Magnar, like a lot. The other one is like Bildrax. then we can play with that extensions to make a good cycle of debuffs. Also the hex, also.
Yeah.
We have some tricks there, but of course, HP burn is important. Decrease defense, we can. That's key here because we don't have max HP damage. We don't have a huge nukers. Then we need all the resources to make that mini damage, but very constant. We need that too. But I really don't know because I have to try a lot of things. Maybe today, tomorrow, and we will see.
Basically, not spoiling it for us. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Well, can you maybe share with us a few champions that you're like looking at specifically to be able to be used? I know you've already mentioned Magnar. I mentioned Umbral. You talked a little bit about Vildrax, right, as a possibility. Are there any other champions in here that you're looking at that you go, oh, this guy might be really good for this this dungeon and this approach?
The same champions that Fire Knight, you know, Tarson here is also important. You also have the A1 to provoke. Yeah. It's a very good option. It is low, but this is an extra. Maybe with an extra, maybe with the provoke set and something like that, you can make with the click because it's auto, but you can target. Also, Gorlos is good because of the decreased damage, decreased defense, and also the extra damage. The multipliers are good enough, and also the E3 is good. Then I think, but the problem here I think is the support. Sometimes you know the Hydra take a perfect combo, and then you have to save your life, and I think versus that is so hard because you don't have a Krisk, you don't have something magical there, and then you have.
That's gonna be hard part.
There is just no like, oh my god, emergency button in any of these epic champions, even in Night Revs. It's literally like the best thing I've got is a single target revive. It's like that's the best I've got going for me.
Yeah, that's definitely gonna be the hard part with this. You know, the always the issue with Hydra is anyway, it can go south in an instant. Right. All you need is somebody to get eaten and immediately get a shield, or you know, get that extra turn going, and like all of a sudden it's like, oh, what's going on? Have your best buffs stolen and spread around on the enemy, and like it can go real south real fast. So I'm personally very curious to see how this all turned out. Obviously, doing this with only epics is a totally different kind of adventure than doing it with legendaries and stuff, because you just don't have the base stats and the support champions and like the the mix of skills to be able to really make something really amazing happen. Well, you guys are going against MTGJedi, who's obviously got the Sacred Order faction, and if nothing else has more options than anybody else in this game, and I think could make this definitely very, very interesting as far as like combination of champions to be able to use. I mean, standout champions would include Mordecai for AoE HP burn. Obviously Inquisitor Shamail to deal with any heads of torment that pop up, not to mention just straight up damage. Godseeker Neri makes for a really good revive plus buff extension, can be an awesome choice as well. But kind of suffers the same issues as many of your guys. There's no real super standout damage dealers, so nobody that's really going to break the bank there. Affinity is always going to be an issue, but definitely more possibilities. Things like Deacon Armstrong, right, with turn meter and AoE stuff. Venax might be a really interesting option for him to bring in with some not only block buffs ability but decrease speed.
Surprisingly
as well.
good Venax.
Also,
people think of Venax as just his A1, but actually, I mean, he's got is it an 80% chance when you put sniper, or is it 85% to put block buffs on an AoE?
85,
and he's got a single target decreased defense and speed, which is actually quite useful if you've just killed a head. With your main debuffer down on cooldown, you can pop up with your A3 to slow the head down, and then you can start hitting it with some good damage. So he is limited though to just like one really strong like damage dealer outside of Mordecai and Shamail, I guess. But Shamail needs the buffs, and where are you going to get the buffs from outside of if you probably you instant lock in Shamail, Mordecai, Godseeker, Deacon, I would say. I mean, that gives you kind of like every foundation.
It's kind of interesting, right?
Then you got to find your buffs.
It does feel like that's 5 champions right there that are not mandatory, but very highly encouraged at the very least. And then where are you looking after that? Because there are some options, right? Like I think Frostbringer is highly underrated these days, especially after the change to his kit, where with the random decreased defense, but the increased speed
if they
and
put that E3 to a 3-turn cooldown, the things we could do with that champion. Just change. It's such a problem being on a 4-turn cooldown.
Juliana, if you can keep her alive, is actually a surprisingly strong champion, I think, for this.
Yeah, but poisons are a real problem in Hydra. Like you just you don't want poisons because you might accidentally poison the decay head and you can't provoke, and half the heads are immune to poison anyway. So it's kind of like you just like punishing yourself trying to like. It kind of is not great for a poison champion like Hydra, in my opinion. Like it's not a source of damage.
Well, I think it can be problematic if you use too many, right? You find this more with reflection kind of champions, right?
Yeah, but just generally though, what you got to remember is half the heads are not going to be there. So if the wrong heads revive, then you've got like one head you can poison. So you basically brought like a champion that can do one poison on one head, and it's she kind of needs Romero as well.
Yeah, it definitely being able to ignore half the defense is pretty nice, which is a nice combination with Romero.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, though, her skills all hit hard. And that's really, I think, the advantage of her. She could be a solid damage dealer as an alternative option.
You probably would build her, but you'd have to drop Fanax for her and then bring your 6th as Romero, because Romero would be like that additional support champion. He does hit hard with that A4, isn't it? The A4 is not bad. Nope. The only downside is it's AoE. And again, like what you don't want in Hydra is AoE damage, because you get such a big penalty from the AoE passives that AoE damage is just, obviously we use AoE max HP nukers, but Victor will tell you, trying to build an Acrisia versus trying to build a Gnut is like 2 different worlds of difficulty.
Yeah. So
a lot of mitigation there. Yeah.
Those are some interesting, I think there's options here though. So it's a little bit of flexibility. I think somebody like Hope could be really interesting, actually. Yeah. Got that block buffs on the A1, which of course is great. The shield, the buff extension, the buff strip. There's some potential there.
Sanguinia is good.
Yep, Sanguinia is another really interesting option, right? Triple hitter on the A1, block debuffs,
good healing,
heals. Yep.
Yeah, buff good cleanser, good healer.
Yep.
I always remember fighting secret rooms with her. She's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's not fun. Lightsworn.
You can use Lightsworn. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're looking for buffs, increase buff.
With A3, that's it.
Yeah. Decrease speed on the skill too.
This is where you'd want to not be an auto, because what if the AI's dumb. We know for a fact that they won't hit dead heads when they're dead. They won't put the decreased attack on the champion. You need to have it on, or they'll go and triple hit their Wrath head just when he's about to proc and he's got increased attack. And why full autos? Desirable.
I agree. That's what's going to make this so fun to watch. Is you guys.
The Church of Whisper mandates a change. I literally had the worst set of RNG on reset this week. I literally had a situation where Ugo got eaten just as I was about to get Ugo out. The Mischief Head 3% stole my block debuffs off my Krisk, then spread the block debuffs, and I got my Ugo out. And just as I was about to lose the block debuffs, Poison Cloud went out. And my one, that's what terrifies me about Hydra. So he runs over because you basically had 4 turns where you couldn't debuff a single target, and then no decreased attack.
I'm so excited to watch this train wreck when it comes by. It's going to be great. Yeah, it's going to be great. No, I don't know what you're talking about. It's going to be fabulous. Well, okay, quick question for you guys. How do you feel about your chances in this? Do you think you guys are going to win, or do you think there's a favorite in this competition? Yes, it will be full auto, Saphyra. So taking that into account, who do you think comes out on top of this fight?
I really don't know, because it's hard. That auto point is key, because we will have a lot of RNG. It's okay, we have 5 minutes. It's not auto, it's semi-auto. Mm-hmm. Then in that 5 minutes, you have to go perfectly to take your perfect rotation, and then with the auto you only have to click, and then with the selections, if you have a clean, because this is hard, this is not Nightmare, then you can maybe manage that. But yes, it's challenging. It's hard. It's hard to go to clean everything and kill everyone, because you don't have that damage dealers.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain if we go full auto, I'll come last. The reason why is I don't have the support champions. I've got Rected Wrath, So what if I don't want to revive the right champion? I don't have the choice of managing the team. So it basically means on like all my damage is not AoE. I have no burners. So like pretty much my entire like team is built around my concept that I was going to be manual in the run. Now that I can't manual the run, I don't think it's going to do that well at all. Just because I just don't think it's like the team's not designed to. You know, most auto teams have like Duchess just like constantly keeping them alive, and she's full tanky, and it doesn't really matter because the Veil buff and everything else with Chris, you just run them on full auto and off they go, and you're killing heads quicker than they can do anything. But without a decreased speed, without being able to control the champions, without being able to really manage when the champions use their abilities, like if Whisper doesn't use her A3 at the right time, then I'm losing an entire rotation, and that's probably a damage difference of millions.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I mean, I actually think it's a big problem.
It sounds like it's going to be a big problem. So now we got to find solutions to it. Hence the challenge of this, excitement of this event. I'm really excited to see what you're going to be able to do to mitigate that. I have faith because I don't know, out of everybody here, I think you're as creative as anyone coming up with solutions for these things. And I have a feeling you're going to probably do a little bit better than you suspect. But we'll see, obviously, not knowing ahead of time. But, you know, I still think you have pretty strong squad because, like you said, you do have some really good champions for this. But obviously, every faction's kind of got some weak spots. So I'm actually really interested to see how this turns out. You know, I feel like it could go either way. Honestly, looking at it, all three of you have a pretty good chance to win this thing. I don't think anybody's going to hit harder than Whisper or do more damage individually. And I think that gives Night Revenants a really kind of a clear heads up on some aspects of this. Obviously, RNG is going to play a major role.
It just depends, though. Like, you got to remember, like, the champion isn't designed to necessarily, like she needs setup.
Yep.
Whereas Akoth doesn't need setup. Mordecai doesn't really need setup. Beyond making sure you don't lose your block debuffs, it doesn't really matter when they burn, right? Yeah. It's just going to give them constant damage, much easier to manage than Whisper, where Whisper actually needs to be like, I don't really want to use the A3 right now because she's not going to get an extra turn, because I need to wait one turn because maybe, you know, decrease defense. Maybe I need her to A1 first, then A3, then A2. So you could end up being the most useless champion in the game because of this one specific thing. You can't control it because it is such an important thing to know when your champion is doing the right rotation. It's like kind of like a feast or famine, you know? Yeah.
I don't disagree with you at all. It's definitely going to make the challenge of it a lot harder, to be fair. We'll see how it goes. I'm curious to see what you end up bringing in, if you make any adjustments to this, or if you don't, and see kind of how that goes. But yeah, I mean, you know, I think everybody's got a little bit of something. Demon Spawn definitely has some interesting champions, some interesting debuffs. I feel like Umbral makes it a big. That's kind of like the big lift on that part of it. But obviously, you know, it's suffering from a lot of the same issues that, you know, Night Revenants is. Not a ton of support going on in there, and definitely not the cleansing ability. So if Torment comes out, that could be kind of crippling for your faction specifically. That's got to be one of the bigger fears. I think Torment, and then obviously Wrath too with the provokes could be really problematic as well. So that's definitely something I'd be concerned about. And then, you know, Sacred Order looks really good, but obviously damage is probably their biggest question mark, right? They have a lot of utility, but as far as like, you know, fitting it all in, you're sacrificing something for every support champion you bring in. And Mordecai is great, but outside of that, where is the damage coming? Affinity is going to have a major impact, probably for all of you, but I think for Sacred Order as much as anybody else, so that should be pretty interesting too. But you know, that's the challenge and the name of the game. So I'm real curious to see how this all turns out. As far as like the fight right now, you know, it's really close. As far as like the competition goes, you know, if you go on the website, you can see all the stats, all the standings, and who's competing where. But I think the biggest thing is where the point totals are, and it's really, really tight right now. So it's, you know, we were at a dead heat among the teams after round 3. We have Hydra and Arena left. You know, obviously, if you want to see the past results, you can go on the website. Saphyra has been doing a magnificent job of keeping that updated, so you can see everything there. But we've got two events left. This one's gonna, you know, have a big impact, and then of course we got the last one, arena, which I think is going to be fun. We've got some new little twists we're tossing in there that should make it pretty exciting. And of course, we're giving away gems and shards for these last 2 events. So make sure to stop by and we'll be able to get you guys some of those 5 p.m. UTC. Do you guys have any other insight you want to drop on this, the Hydra approach, rotation champions you're going to be using, the challenge involved in it before we head out here?
Oh, I think we covered it.
Yeah? All right.
I think that will be a very important challenge because the winner here maybe will condition the final one with the arena. This is a very, very... these 5 points are key here.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because we've been win trading essentially. You know, if you kind of look at it like 2 kills when Romans came second on the dragon, then we won the next one, then we came third, I think, and then we've come second. So it's kind of like we're kind of just like moving ourselves in a rotation. We're all kind of win trading a little bit. But Paella's had like a back-to-back win, which is quite strong, but then they came third and second. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's a little bit. It'll be interesting. I mean, I think it's essentially it's going to come down to blessings. I think whoever's got the highest star rating, especially in arena, probably going to win.
That. I totally forgot about the blessings. It's probably going to be like, because if you look at who's won so far, it's a 6-star crushing rend. It's a like a 6-star allure, and I'm pretty sure if you didn't have Phantom Touch, you would have had to like completely rebuild that team because you would have needed more speed. It would have made a difference to the time. So that 6-star is like kind of crucial because it guarantees you that extra hit. And then I think, what was the other events today? The Spider's always a little bit different because blessings don't really matter. It's more about what skip champions you have. It was never going to be about blessings, to be honest, because let's face it, the HP burn blessing is a travesty. That needs to be buffed, Plerium. But
please.
Something, please. Like 50% is just, or is it 100%? It's just like the most pointless. It's like, yay, I've done like 1.5% more damage. Woohoo. I'm so excited. But yeah, and so it's like the 2 main events has kind of like had that, and then was the other one was Ice Golem, where again, blessings, the only things that really help you is kind of like survival instinct. Like I remember getting like a 6-star frozen banshee, and I was like, this is cool, I'm using it in my Ice Golem 25 team, and I was like, there isn't anything to pick because I don't take debuffs, so survival instinct doesn't work. I don't take damage because the way that's set up, you can't use like Hero Soul because you don't want to deal damage.
No. I'm very curious actually, because this is one of the things, like we've kind of gotten a peek at everybody's account, but outside of Whisper, there's no blessings on champions that have really stood out to me that were like, oh, gotta use that for like, I don't think we're going to see Allure in Hydra. It'd be awesome if we did.
Imagine.
Victor, you get extra points.
We decrease defense, right?
Maybe
decrease defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Granted, you want to use Gorloss over it because like decrease accuracy. If you can get a hex out in the mischief head, you can like lock the head down.
There we go.
Stuff. But backup HP burn, but
but I mean, for me, like, I think that's interesting. It's like outside of Whisper, I haven't really thought about it, but obviously it's going to have a major impact because it has a major impact in pretty much everything we do. But Hydra's probably, the most glaring example of that, right?
Especially like something like cruelty, right?
Cruelty is so massive.
If you have a high awakened AoE cruelty, 20% defense you're saving. It's a big deal. I know you have to kind of like reset it when a head comes alive, but at 6-star it's much easier to scale at a much faster rate. So
I know we're not talking about, I know it's kind of silly with the idea of bringing Allure in, but kind of like almost worth it to have an extra 20% decreased defense just from her kit. Like, just A1 all day long, just like add these decreased defense to all the heads. The
A3 hits really hard. Shot. It ignores 50% defense. So it's it's crazy as it sounds, like the blessing. I've been saying this for a long time now. Blessings are far more valuable than shards if you have champions. Like far and away. They redefine how you use a champion. Like getting a 6-star seer, your account is different. Like it's just it can do things that other accounts can't do. So having the 6-star specifically is where it makes a difference. We saw that with Dragon, right? Yeah. That Luria, you use that Luria without a blessing, you're like, well, that's useless. It doesn't do anything. Use it with a 6-star crushing rend, it's like, okay, that's just one shot in the waves because it's near enough true damage. So it's
exactly.
It's when you hit that 6-star. They know this. That's why whenever you see the events, there's always like get a 4-star or a 5-star soul. It's never a 6-star. because they know the value of a 6-star. It's really high. It's game changing. So it's like at the start of all of this faction games, you pretty much said what's going to be different this time around.
Blessings,
not empowerment. Ironically, because obviously you can't empower epics and all that kind of stuff, but
very
essentially
true.
Awakening is empowering because the amount of stats you get is actually probably, I think you get more stats on some champions if you have low base attack, because you only get 40%. Sometimes actually 500 or 400 attack is more than 40%, so it's effectively empowerment.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Yeah. Well, hey guys, I just want to thank you guys for obviously taking the time to do this. Unfortunately, MTG couldn't be here to record with us today, which just sucks. He's, like I said, the busiest guy in this competition. So by all means, totally understandable that he couldn't be here for this. Thankfully, he will be here for the event on Saturday. That's the big thing. That's the one we need him for. So that'll be great. We'll actually be able to get a chance to ask him his thoughts on things, get an insight on his team, and maybe his thoughts on everybody else's team before we even start the run. So that can actually make that event a little bit more exciting. So I'm a little intrigued on that. I'm going to go get berated by Saphyra about making this full auto. But other than that, we're going to enjoy.
The church is not happy with this
the church
condemnation of the Church of Whisper. You will be excommunicated. There will be penalties.
That's all right.
You have 5 minutes. Don't worry.
I'm a whisper heretic. It's fine.
There may be bells walking down the street with the word shame if you don't change it. That's all I'm saying.
Phenomenal. Guys, that's what I need. I need emojis with my face feeling bad and a bell and shame, the word shame somewhere in it. That needs to happen. Maybe just Saphyra going shame. I feel like that needs to be a thing.
Shame.
Fantastic. All right. Well, look, hey, Victor, thank you obviously for being here, for doing this. I'm really excited to see the team that you bring in. Same thing with you, Saphyra. I think you guys obviously are, some of the smartest people in this game. And so I'm really excited to see what you guys do come up with and how you're able to put this together. I think everybody's actually kind of excited to see that. So it should be a very interesting challenge. Maybe it'll be the shortest stream we have as they burn and crash immediately. Or my guess is these guys are going to pull out the big guns and pull out some interesting tunes and some successful runs. So that's kind of the goal and the hope. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channels. I have it linked down below in the pinned comment description of this video. Visit my website, DeadwoodJedi.com, so you can check out the past events like I have showing behind me and see all the stuff that we have going on, the schedules for the next events that we have coming up as well. Make sure to stop by the stream as we're going to be giving away at least 2,000 gems and a bunch of shards and stuff. That's all we got. I appreciate you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one of these, including the event, which will be Saturday, 5 p.m. UTC, when we do Hydra. Guys, till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.